Morning warriors and welcome to Why Should I Why for this week. This week's quite significant for the year for us because it encompasses World Retro Day, which is the 6th of February every year. One of the things that I love about Agile is retros, and the reason I love them is because it really promotes a true sense of continual improvement, which really sets us in the right stead towards quality as the focus. Now, one of the things that I feel like is probably the worst done in agile teams, mostly because you're pretty tired at the end of a sprint or an iteration, and you really just want to get some time to relax before the next one starts. Teams tend to have less energy at that point, and so they spend less time or end up doing retros in a way that don't really matter. And by matter, I mean don't help. So today's video, I really want to talk about what sort of ways can you do a retro, what are some of the pitfalls and how can we fix them, and why do retros in the first place? Alright, so let's get started. World Retrospective Day, for the 6th of February, really marks for us a time, for me at least, a time to reflect over the last year and really think about what are the things that we've learned, what are the things we could have done better. I'll get into what questions I ask myself in a bit. But basically, what I wanted to do was start with why have retrospectives in the first place? And that sort of brings us back to some theory I learned ages ago in my MBA, which was even, sort of thought about as organizational change even earlier. We're talking mid-19th century. What is that, 20th century? Whatever it is. What we're talking about is organizational change by institutionalizing double loop learning or closed loop learning. If you check out this diagram here, what you'll see is that on the left hand side we've got a single loop learn, and what we're really trying to get to with a retrospective is a double loop learn, which is on the right hand side. And what you'll see is on the right hand side we add that little feedback loop within the loop, and which closes the loop of course and also makes it a double loop. And what that does is allows for you to change your mental model such that you have a different perspective from what you did last iteration or last cycle. And given a different perspective, you tend to think outside of the box and be a bit more innovative, and you start solving problems in multiple ways. And then you get to choose the right solution rather than just the solution. Okay? So this is really what we're talking about all the way through. This will be something that you will start seeing as you do retros. But how do you do retros? Okay, so doing retros becomes quite tedious if you continue to use the same model over and over and over again. I've done that. I tend to do that all the time, which is, I know, annoying, but I should learn from my own sort of ideas and start changing it up with my team so we're doing different types of retros. But let me run through 4 really quickly with you. 3 of them are full retros and 1 is a quick retro. So the one that I love and the one that we always use, anyone that's ever worked with me will sort of be able to chant these questions off all the time, is the 4 W's. What worked well, what we learned, what to improve, and what still puzzles us. So it sort of has, it looks backwards but also looks forward in a sense. And then you've got the 4 L's, which is a very similar model to the 4 W's, but instead of having all these questions, it's just more about statements. So liked, learned, lacked, and longed for, right? And so what you're getting to is pretty much the same model as the W's, but what's going on here is that you've changed the conversation slightly. Depending on the team, you will choose one of those 2. Here's one that's sort of left field. It's kind of, I love it because it's graphical. I love it because there's an analogy attached, and everybody knows I love analogies and metaphors. But if you have a look at this not so pretty picture, what we can do with this is actually make it a retrospective. So you've got a sailboat, cool. You've got something that drives a sailboat, which is wind. So what drove us in the last sprint would be all the things that you would have post-its in the wind section. Then you've got friction, of course, you've got the sea, you've got waves, and that actually slows things down. So then you'd have post-its on your whiteboard in this case that have, oh yeah, okay, I see, this is what's happened. We've had things that have slowed us down. And then you've got, something that might be coming. So this is that idea of what puzzles us, you know, what's out in the distance that we see coming but could be a problem. And, you know, you start, and there's the fourth questions there as well, but you can see that we're basically taking the 4 questions from both the 4Ws and 4Ls and sort of amalgamated them into a graphical interface that allows for people to have a bit more fun with it, but also hopefully starts a bit more discussion. Now the fourth one, guys, the fourth model is actually a really quick one. This is what I tend to do when either we don't have time or the team seems like they're really tired after a review. We will do something I call the happy sad graph or the happy sad chart. Now this is really simple. I ask people to bring out a post-it. They draw a bar graph, a line graph chart like this, where 0 tends to be your medium state, right? And I just ask them over the last 2-week sprint or whatever, however long your sprint or iteration was, just graph how happy you were or how sad you were, right? And at the start of an agile transition, you'll see something like this, right? Very bipolar. But as you sort of get used to agile and that becomes your MO, the way you work, you'll start to see something like this, right? And so what you'll get to is, and I tend to feel like when you're at this stage, you're well. And it doesn't really matter whether you're very happy or very sad, actually. What it matters is that those lines don't sort of oscillate so much, okay? So you're kind of steady most of the time. I tend not to, because we're talking about deep feelings here, I tend not to get individuals to share this particular retro with each other, but it does give them a moment to stop, to think, to reflect, and then to institutionalize some of those learnings in their brains, take the short-term memory and consolidate into long-term memory and become a better individual into the next sprint. I do that, I ask them to do it individually, but we do it as a group, right? So there's a quick one that takes all of 10-15 minutes, not even that sometimes. Really depends on how much people want to reflect on it, and off you go, right? So there's 4 ways, guys, and that's kind of one of the big problems with retrospectives is that it gets quite boring because it's tedious and we do the same thing over and over again. I've got a couple other issues with retros that we need to talk about. The number one issue with retros is that we often uncover issues, problems that cannot be fixed by the team, right? It's either outside of their control, it's above them in the hierarchy, whatever the case might be. Think outside the box. If it's above you in the hierarchy, bring leadership into the retro, right? Just ask them, buy them lunch, do something, just somehow entice them to come and spend half an hour with you while you talk through some of the things that you have issues with. If you have multiple agile teams in your organization, compare notes. And if you start seeing a theme, take those, Scrum Masters from every team should take that to leadership and go, look, we haven't really thought about this. We haven't discussed this together in our team. But as separate teams, we're starting to see the same problem arise at this part of the organization or higher up in the hierarchy. Could you please help us, right? If it's out of your control, guys, it's out of your control. It's not worth stressing about, and it's probably not worth bringing up every sprint either. What should happen is you probably should have an action item that reminds somebody to just sort of check up on how that's going with the person who's got control of it, okay? Retros get too nice sometimes. I hate it when it's nice. People should not enjoy retrospectives. They should hate them. No, bad word. They should not like them, okay? And the reason for that is because they're supposed to be a little bit disruptive. They're supposed to make you really start thinking, geez, I could be better. And you don't try to get better at something until you've got like a true sense of the need for it, right? The idea of the burning platform. You're not really going to jump until the platform is burning, right? And so you want to bring out the burning platform ideas and start thinking about, well, okay, why is it that this happened, and how can I as an individual or us as a team manipulate the factors that are involved, the variables, and actually not let this thing arise again, right? Can't be fixed. Oh, the other problem you get with that is that you usually have the same people speaking up, right? And here I tend to tell teams to bring in an outside facilitator. I don't mean outside as in outside of the organization. I mean outside as in another Scrum team or someone that knows about Scrum and can sort of facilitate and draw out conversation from those people that aren't really speaking up. It also allows, funnily enough, the usual facilitator, usually the Scrum Master, to actually engage in the discussion rather than sort of be part of the facilitation. They can engage in the discussion itself, which adds a unique perspective to the retrospective because you've got somebody else that's doing it. And if you are asking someone from a different Agile team or a different Scrum team to come in, return the favor and go and facilitate theirs. But be good at facilitation, okay? Get good at it. There's all sorts of ways that you can harness your coaching power and start drawing people into conversation, because until you have those really deep conversations that aren't necessarily nice, you're not going to really get that closed loop learning that we're talking about. Okay, I think that's it for today. I know that retrospectives tend to get quite negative, so try to bring the positive and try to celebrate those smaller wins that you have in retros, because retros are good for negativity. The negativity drives that burning platform idea that then drives the need for continual improvement. So I don't mind the negative so much, but you should be celebrating the wins as well. As small as they may be, you should be celebrating them. All right, good. So guys, World Retro Day this week, World Retro Week is what I'll call it. Happy World Retro Day. But before I disappear, I want to get you guys, if you're interested in sort of pursuing better retrospectives, think about bringing in some tools from outside, online tools, offline tools. Think about reading up on it. There's a great book called Agile Retrospectives, Making Good Teams Great, I think it is. Mid-2000s it was out. I can't tell you who it was. I'll try to put it in the notes. But basically, it really goes through retrospectives end to end, talks about why closed loop learning works, talks about how to make retros work. They've got this amazing diagram of like an infinity symbol that really gives you a sweet understanding of how retros should work and why you should be doing them all the time. All right, guys, that's it for me today. I will leave you with that thought. But if you do need someone to help you out with your retros because you're suffering some of the symptoms I talked about, give us a call, shoot us an email. There's going to be email and contact details at the end of this video. Just give us a buzz, right? We'll talk through it and we'll see what happens. Cheers, guys. Have a good day.